This year, I've been lucky enough to gain new insights into who I am. What does this mean? I'm not learning new facts, but I've recontextualized what I already knew. So I'm looking at cultural identity through different lenses. I'm understanding it in different contexts. And I feel like I'm finally understanding intersectionality and the fluidity of identity in the ways that they're intended to be understood. So, with this shift in perspective, I discovered new things about my personal cultural identity. I've been thinking about my identity as unchanging and simple, but really it's actually constantly changing in all of these really complex and interconnected ways. So, the way that I think about cultural identity now is with an iceberg metaphor. Maybe that's cliche, but I find it to be a great visual aid for how I think about fluid and context dependent cultural identity. You can see here we have the tip of the iceberg, and I've included some sticky notes with words on them. So I've arranged these aspects of cultural identity loosely based on their visibility to others. So ethnicity, gender expression, social class, and social position are each visible to some degree, and some more so than others, denoted by their level below the water. So my skin color, hair color, eye color, all might denote that I am Caucasian. My beard and my haircut might denote my male gender expression. My clean clothes and clean face might hint at my social class, and all of these things taken together as a whole would likely indicate my social position as a cis white working class male. This all sounds like a detailed description, but when you take a look below the surface, it becomes clear how much more there is to a person. And I created this iceberg graphic to represent how I understand myself and cultural identity as a general concept. I also specifically chose sticky notes to demonstrate fluidity and context. You can see language, ability, religion, and health are all closer to the surface, while concepts like education, relationships, biases, covert identities are all gradually deeper and deeper, representing different levels of visibility depending on context. Because the thing is, these identity factors have controllable visibility. I can control how visible relationships are. I can put relationships up above by the tip of the iceberg. This is a perfect example because look, I've revealed my wedding ring. So I'm lucky that I live somewhere my cultural identity is accepted by most, and I'm even conferred certain advantages in life because of it. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you that not everyone's so fortunate. I know quite a few people who are openly ridiculed for something that they can't change about themselves. And there's also people I know who feel pressured by society to hide certain parts of their identity. This relates to how I've actually come to understand privilege and intersectionality. I understand intersectionality as the convergence and interaction between my cultural identity factors, and some of these affect others differently depending on context and have even multiplicative effects. So, for example, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and mild Tourette syndrome, which are two neurodevelopmental disorders which are considerably more challenging to work through when you have a dual diagnosis than alone. Uh, However, I have had comprehensive education, access to medications to help me with this, and plenty of family support working as protective factors against the possible negative impacts that these conditions can have. So, if I was raised in a working poor household, had wide gaps in my education, and faced significantly more family trauma than I've had, the same negative impact would actually be multiplied by these factors. And that kind of is how I understand intersectionality. This also helps me understand my privilege in a more nuanced way rather than simply recognizing it as some vague advantage associated with social position and other identity factors of mine, like whiteness or heterosexuality. It is the absence of oppression in my life, but it's a lot more complex than just that. My privilege can actually even be visibly represented on this iceberg model by showing how many of these sticky notes I'm comfortable with moving up to the visible surface. I really enjoyed putting this all together because I feel like I actually was able to deepen my understanding of these parts of my cultural identity throughout this whole process.